These are 5 money mistakes that are trapping many of us in the rat race. And the first one sounds pedestrian, but it really is foundational to getting anywhere with your savings and retirement planning. And that is, it's so key to spend less than what you earn. And again, it sounds pedestrian, but how many people do you know that are making $100,000, $150,000 and aren't saving a dime, right? We all know somebody like that. So it really is foundational for any of us to do that. And you want to be really careful, particularly with depreciating assets like a car, right? How many people do you know that have a $500 a month car payment? And that's not that unusual in today's day and age. And you know, if you look at that over a 10-year period, if you assume that you did, you know, if you bought a $10,000 car, $15,000 used car, and you assume that you didn't have that debt, and instead you save that $500 a month, boy, over a 10-year period, if you're getting a 5% rate of return on that, that's going to be close to $70,000. And if you look at it over a 40-year period, which is, you know, many of our working careers, again, not unusual for people to have a car payment like that while they're working. Over a 40-year period, if you assume a 5% rate of return, that's $750,000. That's a lot of money. And if you assume a 10% rate of return, which, you know, is not impossible, it's in the ballpark of what you might get in a stock investment portfolio. Over a 40-year period, that's going to be $3 million. So that's a lot of money. So be careful with depreciating assets. And of course, be careful with credit cards, right? Credit cards are best used when you can pay them off at the end of every month. I know that's not possible all the time, but enough said on credit cards. So the second money mistake that's trapping many people in the rat race is it's not enough just to save money. You also have to invest that money. And that can make some of us feel uncomfortable, right? Because unfortunately, the stock market and even the bond market is volatile. We all saw last year that the bonds can be volatile. They can go down in value. Last year, the 10-year Treasury, which is issued by the U.S. government, so essentially it's risk-free from a creditor standpoint, but it's not risk-free from an interest rate risk, you know, if interest rates rise standpoint. And what we saw over the last 12 months is the 10-year U.S. Treasury was down almost 15%. That's a pretty significant move. So it can be scary to invest, but if you have a 10-year time horizon, if you have a 20-year time horizon or longer, boy, there's very few periods, there are some, but there's very few periods where the stock market's going to be negative. So time is your friend. If you look at the stock market volatility on a daily basis, it's going to drive you crazy, even on an annual basis or a 2 or 3 year basis. But if you look at it over a 20-year period, it's much less scary. And so hopefully that can get you comfortable with investing as well as just saving, because you don't want to just keep all your money in a bank account, because inflation is going to eat away at that. So I need to say this isn't financial advice. If you'd like to work with a fee-only financial advisor that knows your specific situation, you can find a fee-only financial advisor, a link to find one near you in the description of this video. So that's the second thing keeping people in the rat race. The third one, and this is admittedly hard to do, but if you can be debt-free in your 50s, boy, that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for you. Again, I know it's not easy to do, but think about the freedom, if you're not 50 yet, think about the freedom you could have in your 50s if your mortgage was paid off, if you didn't have a car payment. You know, you can make a lot of things work with your savings account, with your investment accounts, depending on what you want to do, but you have a lot of flexibility there. If you wanted to retire early, you could probably figure out a way to do that. Again, working with a professional to help you figure that out. But it not only gives you freedom from a retirement standpoint, but it also gives you protection, because, you know, unfortunately, if you're in your 50s and you lose your job, it can take a while again to find another job like that. So it gives you some freedom, it gives you some flexibility. And then the fourth item that traps many people unnecessarily in the rat race is, many of us stay too long in one job, particularly if you're in your 20s, 30s, or 40s. Studies have shown you're much more likely to get more promotions, to get bigger pay raises when you're switching jobs. And it sounds awfully short to me, but the studies show, if you switch your job every 4 to 7 years, you're likely to be way ahead of the curve over a career standpoint. So that's just one thing to think about. Now, I would say if you're in your 50s and you have a job that's intellectually stimulating, that you enjoy, and you're working with people that you really enjoy working with, boy, that's hard to find, and there's a lot to be said for just staying with that, right? You're probably very good at what you do at this point in your career. And there's a lot to be said for having a job that you love, even when you're younger, right? I mean, you don't have to optimize on your investments in your bank account. In fact, I have often, really over most of my career, I have optimized on my life over optimizing on my bank account. Frankly, I'm really glad that I did that. But in general, for people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, it can be helpful to switch jobs more often. And then the last one, number 5, this is going to be a little controversial, so please be kind to me in the comments. But I really have a 3-part phrase that I use. It's easy to remember. You'll remember this video with the phrase. In the first part of that video, the first part of that saying, we've already talked about, which is it's important that you spend less than what you earn. But the other 2 points I might get some comments on. The other 2 points are one house and one spouse. So let's talk about the second 2. The one house, in today's day and age, there's very few of us that really need to have a second house, right? Many of us use that as kind of a vacation getaway or an opportunity for the family to get together on an annual basis. But what I've seen with the second home, particularly for the family reunion type aspects and a gathering place for the family, which I think is a great idea, but I don't think you need to have a second house to do that. When your adult children are younger, and maybe their kids, your grandkids, are younger, everybody's happy to go to the same place every year. But as the grandkids start getting older, people want to go to different places on vacation. And I've just seen people anchored with their second home. And then they kind of have a sense that they have to sell it sooner rather than later. They have a little bit of a sense of urgency, and that can obviously work against you when you're selling real estate. So think twice before you buy the second home. Okay, now the one that's going to get me in the comments, please be kind. I don't mean to be judgmental at all about this. But the reality is divorce is expensive. And you have to do what you have to do. It's super important that you're happy in life. But if you can work things out with your spouse, I'm at the age where a lot of my friends in the last couple of years have faced the empty nest phase of their lives. And there's been a fair number of divorces in my friend group. And, of course, I'm sad to see that for both of my friends. But I want what's best for my friends. But remember, this, divorce can be expensive. So if you can make it work, one spouse. So again, spend less than you earn, one house and one spouse. So that's it for today. But do me a favor, leave a comment as to what type of information you might like to hear in future videos like this, what financial questions you might have. And do me a favor, hit the like button. It really does help me out. And leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you, particularly what topics are helpful. So until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use this time wisely.